在满场期待快乐的与会者掌声中，9月27号 ，Professor Lori Santos 来到台湾。Lori Santos， 耶鲁大学心理学教授，他因教授代号赛格157的快乐课而声名大噪。纽约时报称他创下耶鲁317年校史上单一课程最多人选修的纪录。华盛顿邮报形容他幽默迷人而温暖，但他有种能力。用坚实的科学数据和让你大笑的图片，单刀直入，切开人们的疑惑。
And that's the first tip, is that we can control more of our happiness than we think. Well, that's what researcher Sonia Lyubomirsky and her colleagues have studied. She's tried to figure out whether there is a genetic component to happiness, whether happiness is built into our genes. The research suggests that this idea that happiness is built into our genes is just simply wrong. And that's really good news. That means that we can actually act on our happiness. It's not built into our genes. We can take action to make it a little bit better.
快乐是可以透过学习而获得的，这恐怕是桑托斯带来最令人兴奋也最具影响力的讯息。
Lori Santos started the class, Psychology and the Good Life, in January. Nearly 1/4 of Yale's undergraduates enrolled, making it the most popular course in the school's more than 300-year history. Now her teachings are spreading well beyond campus. More than 138,000 people around the world have registered for the online version of the class. Be happy, go. So what's the first step?
Yeah, so the first step is really to realize that some of our intuitions about what we need to do to be happy are just wrong.
桑托斯特别接受《文茜世界周报》的独家专访，我们请教他一个不容易有答案的问题：快乐是什么？
I wish we had a direct measure of happiness, like a thermometer that we could give people to know their happiness. We have to ask people. In the class, we used the definition that scientists use, which kind of has two parts. For you to be happy, you want to be happy in terms of your emotions. It's what people call affective happiness or emotional happiness. But there's also what people call a cognitive side, which is how you think your life is going. The researcher Sonia Lyubomirsky says that happiness is feeling good in your life with the emotions and with your life with how your life is going.
桑托斯定义快乐是人在情感和认知两方面都感觉愉悦，但若以此延伸下来，快乐恐怕就绝非是这个社交网络世代的产物。2017年全美高等教育健康调查显示，高达61%的学生表示，他们正经历不堪负荷的忧郁感，创下高等教育学生忧郁程度的最高纪录。富比士杂志报道，一个朋友都没有，朋友数0的美国人数是30年前的3倍，太惊人了吗？以为这是个在社交媒体上敲敲键盘就快乐的、拥有数百个好友的时代吗？
Loneliness is on the rise. Young people are reporting about 2/3 of young people say that they're very lonely a lot of the time, which is bad because we know social connection impacts happiness. It's also bad for people's health. Research suggests that loneliness can be as bad as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. We don't really know what the cause is. We know that the statistics are getting worse in the US and I think around the world. One very scary statistic is that in the US right now, we have double the number of students who are depressed in just the last 10 years.
华盛顿邮报评论，桑托斯的快乐课结合了正向心理学和行为改变。于是，快乐课的第一阶段，桑托斯先从认知上着手。他以科学调查和统计为本，让学生看见其实不会让我们快乐的因素。
In the beginning of the course, we talked a lot about what won't make us happy: having a good job, having a good salary, getting good grades, looking pretty, something like that.
We're going to be finally finishing up this section on what really does lead to happiness.
Once you start realizing that the things you're going for are wrong, the intuitions you have are wrong, I think that the problem is not that people aren't working towards their happiness. They're working a lot. I see this in my students. They're really, really obsessed with their grades and really fearful about what job they're going to get in the future. But what the research suggests is that that's not going to matter as much as you think. and they're not putting time and effort into the things that really will matter, their friendships, their sanity, their ability to sleep at night, and so on. And so I think once you learn the science, you say, well, let me shift my priorities. Let me put time into the things that really are going to work.
而桑托斯的快乐第二阶段从实践着手。桑托斯最特别的是，他认为快乐不能光说不练，必须更注重行为的改变。专访中，桑托斯特别从科学临床的实验数据提出5点非常快乐的人会做的事，强调人们若以此实践，将训练大脑除旧布新，放掉旧有的坏习惯，改为培养新的习惯。
My top 5 tips would be to take more time for social connection, really try to just talk to people, even if they're strangers in real life. Take some time to think about other people, donate to charity, do something nice for others, stop trying to treat yourself and think about others. Take time for gratitude, even if it's you scribble 3 things down at the end of the day that you're grateful for, that can be a big help. Focus on your healthy practices, so exercise and sleep. 5th one is this idea of time affluence, this idea that you need some time off. You can't be totally scheduled all the time.
换句话说，快乐就是改变大脑的评估和选择能力，是一种 rewirement 扭转过程。
But a lot of these practices don't take a lot of time. You just have to do them. The practice of thinking about a few things you're grateful for, that can be 3 minutes before you go to bed. The act of making a social connection, that can be the difference between standing in a line for coffee and talking to the person next to you versus, scrolling on your phone. People who report being very religious are also happier, but that's often because they're doing these practices. They're praying and meditating, they're taking time off, they're thinking about other people, they're doing charity. Yeah, so I think, the old thinkers, they knew what they were doing.
其中，桑托斯特别强调，接触人群、面对面社交的言谈，在快乐养成的过程中格外重要。桑托斯忧心地认为，一个人快乐与否，更将决定是否将制造出一个只有自我、处处是高墙的国家和社会。
Many Americans will report that they never have a conversation with someone from a different political party. Democrats will say they don't know anyone they could talk to who's a Republican, and vice versa. And I think that comes from us being just more socially isolated in general. We're not having conversations across the political aisle, but that's because we're not having as many conversations anymore. So there's some research, for example, suggesting that voting behavior is often predicted by people's well-being levels. And so I think that if we are a society of people who are unhappy, that's not going to help in politics, right? It's going to only make things worse.
快乐的价值和代价高出我们想象。这是一个能进入人群、把灵魂放低、放广的操练，是个人快乐的关键能力，也是能否形塑一个快乐社会的关键能力。